For over 2 centuries, the name Rothschild has carried an aura of power, wealth, and secrecy. Some call them the most influential family in history. Others whisper of conspiracies, secret control of governments, and shadow empires of finance. But behind the myths lies a true story, one that begins in the cramped alleys of Frankfurt's Jewish ghetto in the mid-18th century. Here lived a man named Meyer Amschel Rothschild, the founder of what would become the most famous banking dynasty in the world. Born into poverty in 1744, Meyer was the son of a money changer. The family lived in a narrow house marked by a red shield, or Rothschild, from which they took their name. Despite facing restrictions and discrimination as Jews in Europe, Meyer saw opportunity in the one field Jews were often permitted: finance. He began dealing in rare coins and currencies, slowly building connections with wealthy clients. His big break came when he secured the patronage of Prince William of Hesse, one of the richest nobles in Europe. Meyer's sharp mind, honesty in business, and talent for managing money earned him trust, and with trust came influence. But what truly set Meyer apart was his vision for the future. He sent his 5 sons across Europe: Amschel in Frankfurt, Salomon in Vienna, Nathan in London, Karl in Naples, and James in Paris. This network of brothers became the backbone of a financial empire. Through letters, couriers, and coded messages, they shared information faster than governments themselves, creating what was perhaps the world's first international financial intelligence system. From humble beginnings in Frankfurt, Meyer Amschel Rothschild laid the foundation of a dynasty that would shape the destiny of nations. By the early 19th century, the Rothschild brothers were no longer just money changers, they had become financiers to kings, generals, and governments. While most bankers dealt with wealthy individuals or merchants, the Rothschilds elevated their game. Their clients were monarchs, prime ministers, and entire nations. During the Napoleonic Wars, Nathan Rothschild in London played a decisive role. At a time when communication was slow and governments struggled to move funds across borders, the Rothschilds used their vast courier network to transfer gold and intelligence at unprecedented speed. They supplied the Duke of Wellington's army with the cash it needed to keep fighting Napoleon, moving millions of pounds across war-torn Europe when no one else could. This single act not only proved their efficiency but secured their reputation as indispensable allies of Britain's government. Meanwhile, James Rothschild in Paris financed French railroads and industry, while Salomon in Vienna became the trusted banker of the Austrian Empire. What gave them such power was not only their wealth, but their ability to coordinate across borders. Imagine governments struggling to fund wars or rebuild economies, and a single family able to provide the credit, gold, and speed to make it possible. Their motto might as well have been, "While nations fight, the Rothschilds profit." Yet, this was not pure greed, it was strategy. By diversifying their operations across Europe, they could bet on stability no matter who won the wars. Whether Napoleon triumphed or fell, whether monarchs rose or revolutions erupted, the Rothschilds ensured they were on the winning side. And in this way, they cemented themselves not just as bankers, but as power brokers of Europe itself. No story about the Rothschilds is as famous, or as controversial, as the Waterloo myth. According to legend, Nathan Rothschild received news of Napoleon's defeat at Waterloo hours before anyone else in London. Thanks to the family's unmatched courier network, he supposedly arrived at the London Stock Exchange with the secret in hand. The tale claims that Nathan quietly sold off his government bonds, creating panic as others followed his lead. Then, when prices collapsed, he secretly bought back massive amounts at rock-bottom value. By the time the British government officially confirmed Napoleon's defeat, Rothschild had allegedly secured a fortune and tightened his grip on Britain's financial system. It's a story that has been told for nearly 2 centuries, repeated in books, newspapers, and conspiracy theories. But did it really happen? Many historians argue the story is exaggerated or outright false, pointing out that while Nathan did profit immensely from government bonds, there's no evidence he manipulated the entire market that day. Still, what matters is not whether the story is true, but how it shaped the Rothschild image. The myth of Waterloo made Nathan Rothschild appear almost superhuman, a man who could outsmart entire governments with speed, secrecy, and strategy. It reinforced the idea that the Rothschilds weren't just bankers, they were puppet masters pulling the strings of nations. And like many powerful myths, it stuck. Even today, the Waterloo story is whispered in documentaries, online forums, and financial histories. It shows how a single family, with information moving faster than anyone else, could seem unstoppable. Whether fact or fiction, the Waterloo myth became part of Rothschild legend, and legends, after all, can be more powerful than truth. With Europe reshaped after Napoleon's defeat, the Rothschilds didn't retreat, they expanded. Wars had proven their power, but peacetime offered even greater opportunities. The 19th century was an age of industrial revolutions, and no revolution ran without capital. The Rothschild brothers supplied it. Across Europe, they financed railroads, which became the arteries of modern nations. In France, James Rothschild backed massive rail networks, linking Paris to every corner of the country. In Austria, Salomon financed the construction of rail lines that stitched together the Habsburg Empire. Even in Italy, Karl Rothschild poured money into railroads that connected Naples to the growing markets of Northern Europe. Railways weren't just transportation, they were economic lifelines. Whoever controlled them controlled the flow of goods, people, and profits. And behind the scenes, the Rothschilds were pulling the levers. But it wasn't only trains. They also dominated the global gold trade. For decades, the Rothschild Bank in London fixed the price of gold, effectively deciding its value on world markets. At a time when gold underpinned entire currencies, this was no small matter. Their influence stretched from European palaces to colonial mines. A famous saying circulated, "Kings and governments may fall, but the Rothschilds remain." The family's reach was so vast that they seemed untouchable, too embedded in every major economy to ever be overthrown. To monarchs, they were indispensable. To rivals, they were invincible. And to critics, they looked like something far more dangerous, a family that held the world in its hands, with railroads, gold, and governments all at their command. As their fortune and influence grew, so did the whispers. To many, the Rothschilds were not merely bankers but shadow rulers of Europe. Their secrecy only fueled speculation. While monarchs flaunted palaces and nobles displayed their wealth at lavish parties, the Rothschilds kept a lower profile, managing their power quietly, through ledgers, loans, and negotiations behind closed doors. Unlike most dynasties, they married within the family to keep their fortune concentrated, creating an image of a closed, untouchable circle. This silence bred suspicion. By the mid-19th century, pamphlets, newspapers, and political cartoons began depicting the Rothschilds as puppet masters controlling kings and wars. Some saw them as masterminds behind revolutions and financial crashes. Others believed they could sway entire governments with a whisper. Their vast network of banks, railroads, and mines seemed too powerful, too coordinated to be coincidence. Were they really orchestrating events, or were they simply a convenient scapegoat for societies struggling with rapid change? The truth was likely somewhere in between. The Rothschilds were undeniably powerful, but myths magnified that power to near mythical proportions. Yet in the court of public opinion, myths often carry more weight than facts. Conspiracies claimed they owned the Bank of England, that they profited from every war, that their gold reserves could topple empires overnight. Whether true or not, the Rothschilds had become symbols, not just of wealth, but of hidden power. And once a family becomes a symbol, its real story becomes almost impossible to separate from legend. Today, the Rothschild name still carries weight, but the dynasty is not what it once was. By the late 19th and early 20th centuries, the world changed. The rise of American billionaires like Rockefeller and J.P. Morgan shifted financial power across the Atlantic. Wars, revolutions, and new financial systems chipped away at the Rothschild monopoly. Their banks remain influential, their descendants still wealthy, but no longer the shadowy empire of kings and crowns. Yet, the legend persists. The family's secrecy, their extraordinary rise from a Frankfurt ghetto to Europe's highest thrones of finance, and their role in some of history's greatest events ensure they remain subjects of fascination and controversy. Some still see them as masterminds pulling invisible strings, others as pioneers who modernized banking. In truth, the Rothschilds were both powerful and human, both influential and exaggerated in legend. Their story is a reminder that wealth and secrecy create myths as powerful as armies. But one thing cannot be denied: for over a century, the Rothschild dynasty shaped Europe's destiny in ways few families ever have. They proved that money could rival kings, and that information, delivered faster than any army, could conquer nations. From coins in Frankfurt to financing empires, they turned finance into a weapon of power. And that legacy still echoes today, in every conversation about bankers, billionaires, and hidden elites. As we close this chapter, one question remains: were the Rothschilds truly the masters of Europe, or simply the family that best understood how power really works? Either way, their story is a tale of blood and fortune.